Welcome into the Bite Meat podcast. And, you got those people in the industry that, have been on this my Bite Meat podcast. And one that I've been wanting to have since the very beginning, because I am very much a Traeger addict. I'm working on my second one. I got my Timberline 1300 right out that window right over there. And and we've been using the heck out of it. I've got my stick burner. Love it when I have time to do it. But when you don't, man, it is something to have that Traeger going on. And we have Jeremy Andrus, CEO of Traeger, joining us. So, Jeremy, I've been wanting to get you on, not just because, your expertise and sharing with our listeners everything that you do, but I'm just intrigued by the story, because I was familiar with Traeger grills a long time ago, probably maybe even before you took over the company, I believe in 2014. And I was like, this is really cool. This is really cool. And it was the smaller ones, of course, but and I've been wanting to get you on, and obviously the company has exploded since you've taken over. But I'm like, how like, what did you see? I thought it was cool, but obviously with your expertise, there's a lot of good ideas out there that people stare in the face and they don't really recognize it. What did you recognize here that it became such a monster now?
It's a great question, and it's I'll say a couple of things. First, I'm an entrepreneur. Before Traeger, I built a business called Skull Candy.
Yeah, we're familiar.
Electronics brands. And it's interesting. I was a young entrepreneur when I started that, and it was hard work, but we somehow created magic on like just not a lot of money. We were able to create this incredible brand passion. And I look back on that experience 10 years after I co-founded it, and I said, we got a little bit lucky. Like there's not really a formula to create magic. I don't know. I don't necessarily know how to repeat that. I know all of the things that we did well, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you build something that people love. And I love passion in a brand. And so I met Traeger. I met the company, and I went up to Oregon, and I spent some time with consumers, and it really struck me that it was sort of in its very raw form. There was no marketing department at the time, but it was a 27-year-old business that was doing sort of $75 million in revenue, and the passion of the Traeger consumers blew my mind. Like, how did this happen? And what I realized as I unpacked it, and I don't know that I completely understood it when I partnered, when I invested in the business, then I partnered with a financial partner to buy the rest of it. There's just a couple of things. Number one, food is personal. When you create food and you share it, and it's great food, and you sit across the table and you have this great experience, it feels good. It's like high fives, like son, daughter, high five, dad, this is amazing. I can't believe you created this for me. And what Traeger did at the time, and this is the early innings in terms of our product evolution, but what it did is it made people great at barbecue who didn't know how to do barbecue before. It democratized barbecue. And I loved barbecue before that. And I am a foodie, but I wasn't a stick burner guy. I didn't have time, nor did I really know the art of barbecue to do it. And I saw this in passion from consumers. And then I tried it myself. And my wife, who's an amazing cook, and she's watching me set this new Traeger grill up that I bought at the Ace Hardware down the street. She's not taunting me. I have a lot of business ideas, and I'm setting up. She says, "So this is going to make you a good cook." I'm like, my food's going to taste better. And she's like, "Yeah, right." Well, I cook a meal on it, and Kristen says, "Wow, this is impressive," and I know it's not you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's when I realized a couple of things. Number one, there was an interesting new solution that I viewed as disruptive in the barbecue space, even though it had been around for 27 years. It hadn't really found its way outside of the Pacific Northwest. And I also recognized, this trend around food as an experience, and not just going out to restaurants, but more home cooking. And I thought the combination of those two things made a really interesting business that had the potential to have mission and purpose,
Hmm.
and to be a brand that people get excited about and that's important to people.
Well, and so just to be clear, you were quote unquote a foodie, but you weren't necessarily, Aaron Franklin. I mean, you just enjoyed it. Yeah.
100%. I love to consume it, and I loved it when other people cooked it.
So was that a factor? Was that a factor? Like you're an entrepreneur. You get I'm sure your eyes on several things, especially at that point in your life.
Yeah.
Was that a factor because you had maybe other options?
You know what? I had a lot of other options. I looked a lot of things like across the board, startups, technology to bring vision, to bring eye exams to developing countries. And I would tell you what I was really looking for was something that I believe people could get excited about, something that gave me passion. So, no question, being a foodie, that was the starting point. But what I loved about this is that it didn't just make me like I was a foodie before. It actually allowed me, or enabled me, to be good at cooking.
Hmm.
And I wasn't confident at that, so that this became a hobby for me.
Yeah.
Cooking for families on a Sunday afternoon with confidence and pride became a hobby. So, enjoying food, no question, that was important. But you know what? When you find something that sort of unlocked something, a passion in a human being, that's unique. Because
Yeah.
if you think about the number of products or brands that you interact with every day up until like this hour in the afternoon, most of them don't create any unusual passion or interest. They
Hmm.
just do their job. They do exactly what they're intended to do. And what I believed about Traeger is that we could be more than the backyard gas grill,
Hmm.
whose brand most people didn't know when I did research. We could actually be something that was important to the lives of people. And then that's cooking and food. And that really, like that inspired me.
It's terrific, and you said a couple of things there that I definitely want to loop back to. But of course, this is the Bite Meat podcast. That is Jeremy Andrus, CEO of Traeger Grills, and you can get this podcast. I didn't even say this at the start; I just jumped right in. But it's iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. We host it on Podbean, so you can register and subscribe. A lot of people have. This is a broadcast all over the country. And we're quite proud of that. Brought to you every week by Texas Star Grill Shop, which I mentioned earlier. All right, so this is I'm a grammar nerd. You don't know my full background. I've been a writer, written several books, done broadcasting. So I'm a grammar nerd, and there's this word called an eponym, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that word or not. But an eponym is like Kleenex. When the product name becomes what the product is, it's not tissue, it's Kleenex.
Yeah.
Q-tips. It's not a swab.
Right.
It's not a cotton swab, it's a Q-tip. Traeger has become an eponym. I mean, you have the sense of pride and I guess accomplishment for that. I'm talking to my buddies, and they don't often say I want to get a pellet grill. They say I want to get a Traeger. I
Yeah.
mean, that alone tells you about how far this has come in a very short time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And you know what? I would be the first one to acknowledge. You start as an entrepreneur and you have a big vision, but there are things that happen that have to fall into place,
Sure.
and there's luck in the process. And I will say that's exactly what I wanted to build. Did I really know or believe that I could do it? I don't know.
Hmm.
But when someone refers to Traegering, when someone, like, they're using the verb that was your brand, you just step back and say, "How did that happen?" That's amazing. I'll tell you one of the things that I just think is the holy grail in the world of consumer is when you can build a brand that becomes synonymous with how you identify yourselves. It's when you can build a community that's connected. It's like consumers of the brand connecting with each other. Then I think you've built something that is more than product. It's a
Yeah.
lifestyle. It's meaningful. And so, I love what we've been able to build thus far. I have tremendous appreciation for Joe Traeger, who
Hmm.
founded this business back in the mid '80s, and we're so far from where I think we can be. But it's been a great journey. I mean, it's honestly, it blows my mind that we've managed to create this type of passion. And I have nothing but appreciation for everyone that supports, as a consumer of this brand.
Well, and with that success, they're coming at you, man. They're coming
Well,
at you. I mean, they're
you're
yeah,
right.
I walk into whether it's Texas Star or anywhere else, I'm like, oh, they came up with a pellet grill now. Oh, they came up with a pellet
Yeah,
grill now. You created a monster,
yeah.
but they're trying to knock down the monster. How is it that you can always stay ahead? I know the engineering. I know obviously the marketing, the techniques, staying in front. But that's your current challenge, isn't it? To stay on top.
It is, and it's funny. These things happen, and you see it oftentimes in consumer brands where someone comes out and creates a wave of energy, and you get a lot of fast followers. And I will tell you, it's initially flattering, and then it's kind of annoying. It's like, wait, you're not innovating. You're just like you're following quickly. And
Hmm.
then you step back and say, "This is good. Competition is good. God bless America." It's like we're capitalists. We can build businesses. And then the question is, what is the strategy? What do we do to sustain ourselves long term? And I'll say a couple of things. First of all, competition is awesome. We
Hmm.
are getting so much better because of the competition, and it pushes us and it inspires us. But by the way, it also makes us nervous. Like
Good nervous.
there's it's good and nervous. Like there's a healthy level of anxiety where you look at, you've had this massive lead, like when we're just competing against gas,
Hmm.
or when we were bringing barbecue to someone that didn't want to take the time in an offset smoke or whatever it may be. We had this massive lead, and then you see fast followers, and you say, boy, like I don't have the same gap between me and my competition that I used to have. And then you figure out what is your strategy. And I'll say this, first of all, we really believe in product as a moat. And when I say product, the product
Hmm.
experience, and it's not just steel, electronics, and wood. It's everything that makes a cooking experience a good one for our consumer segment from start to finish.
Hmm.
So we think a lot about, not how can we just make our how can we optimize our wood pellet grill, but how do we get in habitat with families that who cook, and how do we understand their challenges, and then how do we bring innovation that makes the cooking experience better. Most people equate cooking at home as a chore, and it's our vision that if we do the right thing for the product, which is it's the digital product, it's the recipe content, it's the durable, it's all the innovation, it's the firmware and the
Hmm.
electronics. Consumer doesn't care about any of the components of that. They just want to know that when they engage with Traeger, they enjoy cooking more, the food tastes better, and their family's really happy when you serve
And you
it.
say the food tastes better, and I've been cooking my whole life, and as I mentioned, with the stick burner mostly, and I've used to have the propane. The Traeger for me has been, it's almost affirmation. I know I'm pretty good. I'm not going to say I'm one of the best in the world. I'm not going to say I'm on Pitmaster, on Netflix or anything like that. But I know I'm pretty good. But you mentioned this word anxiety. It fits with how Traeger is resonating too, to me anyway,
Yeah.
because no matter how many briskets I've cooked, ribs, cabrito, whatever I put on there, every time you played it, there's a little bit of anxiety. Did I do it? Did I do it right? Did I nail it? The confidence that you get, and that's what you were referencing earlier. Now with a Traeger, I go to bed and I'm not worried about it.
So that is the confidence is the confidence is so important. Confidence is what brings us back to the table.
Yeah.
Pick a hobby. Like if you're a golfer and Callaway puts a club in your hands that you can hit 50 yards further and a lot straighter. The confidence, what does it do? First of all, you don't give the credit to Callaway, and we don't want any of the credit. We want our consumers on the credit. Golf more. And so the more confidence we can give to our consumers, the more they will engage. And the brisket, like this is a very this is a very relevant one to like right in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I remember cooking my first brisket and scared the living daylights out of me. And I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And I will tell you, like right now, in this very moment, I am cooking 16 briskets. It's like 240 pounds of brisket before I trimmed the fat, and then it's probably like 50 pounds less.
Yeah.
And you know, we're having a holiday Christmas party on Saturday night, and so I've started cooking, and we're inviting 400 of our closest friends
Man.
to eat my brisket. Like I couldn't do one and take it to my neighbors, but I'm at a point where I can do 16. Now, I've never done 16 before, so
Oh, you got this.
I feel a lot of confidence and enough anxiety that I'm like very focused on it. But we want people to feel confident cooking. We want them to feel joy in sharing, and we just want to add to people's lives. I mean, like when you sit around a table and you share food that you have cooked yourself,
Mm-hmm.
people appreciate it. They feel that, and when the food tastes great, it's even better.
Yeah, and 16 briskets. I want to see your backyard, but anyway, that's beside the point. Then there's the ambassador program. I don't think you innovated this, but maybe redefined it. To have you talk about the connection, and oh, there's so and so. I've seen him on YouTube or whatever, or I've seen him on television. To have the ambassador program the way you do, and I don't know what you call them. That's what I'm saying. But to have these guys that are top shelf pit masters connecting, whether it's at an event or on YouTube or social media or whatever, that to me is another little aspect of connecting regular old backyard pit masters to a next level.
Yeah, you know this is a really important part of this business, and this is something that I brought with me from the Skull Candy brand, which is interesting. Totally different brands, totally different product categories, but there are some analogs, and one of those analogs is around product innovation. The other is around how we build brand in a very authentic way. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, in my prior life in Skull Candy, it was snowboarders, skateboarders, you know, pop music, rock music, things like that. In Traeger, it's people who love to cook and who have a social audience. Mm-hmm. And the way that we do this, and we really brought this model to barbecue, but the way that we do it, I think it's really hard to replicate. Authenticity is everything in a brand. And, you know, authenticity is also a much overused word, but what does it mean in terms of our friends of the brand, our ambassadors? It means that we partner with people who believe in what we're doing. They believe in our mission. They believe in Traeger as part of lifestyle. We never reach out to someone and ask to cut them a check. We've literally never done that once. We get to know people. We give them product. We understand what they do, mm-hmm. and it grows slowly over time. And these people are truly our friends, and there's real alignment in our values and how we see food and how we see lifestyle, like all the way to the top. If you're to, you know, someone like Matt Pittman, for example, you know that Matt is a friend. Mm-hmm. Matt invites me to join. He invited me to go join a football game this past fall at SMU. Mm-hmm. I'll invite him to come up and have dinner or go skiing when he's here. We love food, but we really enjoy each other, and I think that's where the authenticity comes from. Mm-hmm. You know, we have, I don't know, more than 1,000. You know, I just call them friends of the brand. They're you know, they're anywhere from someone that has influence on his cul-de-sac in his neighborhood, all the way up to Matt Pittman, who's a huge name in barbecue. Doug Scheiding, who you've had on this call. I mean, like, these are people who genuinely love barbecue. They are foodies. They love to create, and we love them. Yeah. You know, all the way up to a guy like Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan reached out to us, you know, 10 years ago, and he said, "I'm hearing about this Traeger thing. I hunt elk. I need something to cook my elk steaks on that doesn't dry them out." And we said, hey, we turns out we think Traeger is a great solution, and we brought him one. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then he started commenting on social media. Then we started talking. Joe Rogan's a friend, and so we never reached out to Joe and said, "Can we write you a check?" It just turned out that our lifestyles really, really coincided.
Yeah.
And so the ability to do this authentically, where it's not transactional, it's not just an agent in between sending money. These are people that come and see us in Salt Lake City, and we go see them in their homes. And we're able to do it in a way that a consumer always knows when they're getting sold something.
Right.
And we don't ask them to sell. We don't pay them to sell. We don't have a program where they give out codes and discounts and
Mm-hmm.
we just want them to authentically cook on the product and show the world that it's part of their life.
Yeah, and I think what it does, and I think I fell into this because back in the day, I was one of those dummies that was like, pellet grill, yeah, and that is still out there. But what it does, I think, is it makes it much more approachable when you have these pit masters and celebrities with your product. It makes it much more approachable. I mean, people still, I'm sure, I don't hear as much of it anymore, but you probably do. Oh, that's cheating. Oh, you can't get a bark. Oh, you can't
Yeah,
this, you can't that. I mean,
yeah.
that has to be something that I guess you're still fighting but winning because look at what Traeger's doing now.
It's you're spot on, and I will tell you, like early on, when one of our partners or when Traeger, like one of our pit masters for Traeger, we'd show up at a barbecue competition, particularly a place like Texas,
Hmm.
right? Where we're like like that is
Brisket,
culture.
beef,
Oh,
barbecue.
like say no more. I mean, like that is one of the ground zeros to barbecue. And we'd show up, and as we're pulling a Traeger out of off of a truck, we're hearing snickering and things
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, that's an easy bake oven.
yeah.
And we just sort of like, we laughed with them, we enjoyed it. But people are winning competitions with Traegers now, and what they found was they can focus on the food. They can focus on the rub, the spice, the sauce. They can focus on, how they prepare it, how they share it, as opposed to the fuel. So that's sort of like at an enthusiast level, we needed to work hard to build credibility that this was a legitimate way to cook.
Hmm.
And then I'll say we needed to make the product better. And we needed to make it better for two reasons, or for two consumers. Number one, for the enthusiast, like that tip of the spear,
Hmm.
who wants to compete. They know what great flavor tastes like. A Traeger, when we bought the business, it didn't create enough flavor.
Hmm.
Great flavor like for a mainstream consumer, but it wasn't creating rich barbecue flavor. And it created bark, but not enough, like not a super high quality bark.
Hmm.
We needed to innovate the product, and we needed to be able to impart more flavor. So we built new technology around how we drop pellets in a fire pot, and how we circulate air to drive more smoke and more flavor. We created a patented super smoke feature.
I use it.
Like,
Yeah.
and like, if you want to really drive flavor to the center of the protein that you're cooking, man, put a brisket on for 10 hours on super smoke at 225 degrees. So we needed to build a product that would better simulate authentic barbecue. But we also wanted to, like, we want to democratize great cooking. We want to democratize barbecue. And so we needed to be able to speak to a mainstream consumer who ate barbecue, didn't cook it, but they knew how to cook on a gas grill.
Yeah.
And they would look at a gas grill as sort of like their benchmark of what is a good grill. So it's hot and it's fast, and so all of these things, we needed to make a Traeger grill, which was a little kludge when we bought the business 11 years ago. And it took forever to get up to temperature, and then you'd open
Mhm.
the lid and it took forever to recover. That may be okay to someone who's cooking for 10 to 15 hours.
Mhm.
That's not okay for someone who wants to cook midweek. They
Yeah.
want to cook hamburgers or salmon midweek. So we had to make the product better for both of them without sacrificing the essence of the product, which is this needs to cook the best brisket, the best ribs, the best pulled pork you can make.
And the thing about it is, you ask me what I want the most is a consistent temperature. And that's the game changer of all game changers right there. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent hunched down, making sure the fire is right. And I don't do that when I'm on my Traeger. Consistent temperature. And I
Yeah.
will say this as well, because whatever it is you guys have done, I can honestly say if I cook on the stick burner or the Traeger, I'm not sure which bark is which. And the bark
Yeah,
that to me that's the biggest misnomer of all. I
I agree.
mean, like, and I cook briskets a lot down here, but
Yeah.
whatever it is you did with those two, when we
Yeah.
know the temp, but with those two things, that's what makes it again more approachable, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm sometimes reluctant to talk about technology related to food, especially from a consumer facing perspective. But the reality is the how we've designed the industrial design and the mechanical engineering, there are things that create better flavor.
Mm-hmm.
There, there are things that we build into the product that create better color, better texture. Like all of these things are the experience. When you can get flavor, texture, color, presentation, all of those things lead to the food experience. And so there's a lot of work that we've done to engineer a thermal system that takes it from where it was 11 years ago to I will tell you what we're launching next month. Firmware. Again, it's like I don't want our
Mm-hmm.
consumers to
What's
ever
firmware?
like, I don't
Yeah.
want them to ever think about firmware, but we invest a ton of money in firmware
Mm-hmm.
because we believe that if we can find the intersection, be the optimal smoke to heat ratio, then we can cook food and make it taste better.
Yeah.
And there's technology in it. So we want that technology to be opaque to a consumer. The same way that, when I get on my Apple iPhone, for example, it's powerful and it can be used at a lot of different levels, but it's so simple. Like watching my 8-year-old twin boys go through it. It's like they are technologists. We want our consumer to view the Traeger product is elegant, simple, focus on the food, focus on the experience. Don't care about the technology, but there's a lot of it in it.
Yeah.
And there's more coming, but it's simple. Simple is winning.
Well, you say there's more coming, and I don't want you to say anything, obviously, that you don't want to say. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is you've changed the industry once. The industry is nipping at your heels or trying to. What about industry wide? Like whether it's Traeger or industry wide, what are some of the things that you always want to get to the next level? You always want to make it more approachable, more accessible, and better. What are some of the things that you could kind of envision as your head turns at night and you're trying to go to sleep?
Yeah, so I think that goes. It's really stepping back and thinking about two things: our vision and our mission. So
Hmm.
our vision is to be, and our aspiration is to be the global leader in outdoor cooking. And there are a lot of things that go into it. It's not to be, the leader of wood pellet grilling to a small consumer segment. We want to be the global leader in outdoor cooking.
Hmm.
And I think that speaks to the brand and the community that we're building. It speaks to belonging to a community. It speaks heavily to the experience of the product and making it better. But that is a broad vision.
Hmm.
Our mission, our brand mission, or our promise is really to bring people together to create a more flavorful world. And the bringing together is an important part of our mission.
Hmm.
We want Traeger to be at the center of people's lives. We don't care if they credit Traeger to that or not. If they see the Traeger out the corner of their eye after an incredible experience with their family, their buddies before a tailgate, we want to bring people together.
Hmm.
So everything that we do is around this vision and this mission. And I have this very, very strong belief that, if you build a business the right way, if you're willing to not cut corners, even when things are hard, that we will build something that lasts.
Mm-hmm.
So we think a lot not about like what's the dollar of profit that we can make right now. And I'll tell you, like especially coming out of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where we had just methodical growth. We just kept growing before the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit and it went straight up.
Yeah.
And you know what happened when it ended? It went straight off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we got to 2022 where we were fighting for our lives. As a $700 million brand, we're fighting for our lives for a lot of things that had changed in this industry and the economy and with the consumer. And we had to get super lean and entrepreneurial and scrappy again. But we said there are two things that are sacred about this business.
Mm-hmm.
In a moment that we don't have two nickels to rub together, we're going to invest in them. We're going to invest in our community, and we're going to invest in our product. And that's a moment that we now look back upon and say, I'm so glad that we have this long-term mentality, because look, you see businesses that cut corners sometimes, and I only want our product experience to get better, and I only want our consumer to feel more proud that they have a Traeger on their back deck.
Yeah. A couple more things for you. I don't want to keep you forever here. I know you got, hey, it's the holiday season, that kind of thing. But I got a couple of things for you. Let's talk about a little cooking now. From the guy at the top of Traeger. You mentioned 16 briskets. Give us a little thumbnail of how you're doing them.
so I'll say, first of all, I called my good buddy Benny Kendrick,
mm-hmm.
and actually he and I are we're gonna carve brisket together at our family party. And I said, I need to do a ton of brisket. Here's what I'm thinking. What are your ideas? And I love to like we plan this thing, and like everyone has pro tips and ways that they do it. But I would say, first of all, we're huge Matt Pittman fans.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did some salt, pepper, and some holy cow.
Yeah.
We think that's not only a great flavor, but it sets up a nice bark. We thought a lot about the brisket that we're going to cook, where we're going to source it, what's the quality, what am I going to pay for it, and we cooked them overnight, about 10 hours.
Okay.
And I tend to believe that I focus less on the time, and of course it's the temp, but for me it's like, how is it like
what does it look like?
The visual appeal of a brisket, really
100%.
And I tend to believe that more time unwrapped is better than less. I've never found otherwise. And they're now wrapped. Put it. I used to be a butcher paper guy, and I've become a foil guy over time.
Because you do it less, probably doesn't make it more mushy.
You know what? I find that it just if you're cautious about how you wrap it and how you take care of it when you're resting it, you can still have an incredible bark. But put it in the tins with some beef tallow, and you know what? We're finishing them up, and I can't wait to be there side by side with Mr. Kendrick and share it with our best friends.
You're a tallow guy, so that's a polarizing topic right there. Okay, couple more.
I know.
Yep. Some people are tallow, some people are inject, some people are not. I also saw something, I guess last week I was just reading something because I'm a nerd about this stuff, that there was a bio on you and it said you finally figured out how to cook the perfect steak. Oh, really?
You know what? That may be that may be a little bit. I'll say relative to the people I cook steak for, and I will tell you, Doug Scheiding.
He does.
You know what? He cooks an incredible steak, and you want to hear what's something funny about that? I wrote that bio before I sat in Doug's steak class.
You would edit it now.
Well, so he was up at Traeger, I don't know, this couple of months ago, and I went by to see what he was teaching, and man, he has developed some new pro tips that are just like, and again, these are refinements. These are to the decimal point, but he's the master, and it's just something that everyone appreciates. Everyone, that's a strong statement. People appreciate a great steak. And it's something that I mastered early because brisket, you just can't cook every day.
No.
But you can but you can cook a steak. And
Mhm.
so, I got and I got really good at steak, and I've cooked it forever during the pandemic. When things were closed,
Yeah.
I invited people to my house for lunch, like my business meetings, my team. I invited them over, and there was a single meal. It was a reverse seared steak. It was a like salty crusted potato cooked on the Traeger.
Mhm.
It was a salad with some dressing that I had smoked, and it's like a very simple meal that really hit home every single time. So I've cooked thousands of steaks, and you know what? I'll give Traeger a little bit of credit. I don't get it wrong ever.
That's all right. Okay, good for you. And then tailgating. I know you're a football fan. I know you're a BYU fan, and tailgating with a Traeger can be a process. Maybe that's one of the things you hear a lot. 'Cause I have one of those electric generators.
Yep.
Those ones you charge up, and I found that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I've got a big one here. I need to get a smaller one, but to move it. What's your tip on tailgating with a Traeger?
You know what? So I'll say a couple of things. First of all, I think we can build better tailgating product, and
Okay,
this is something that we're doing. But
I'll
I
be
but
paying attention.
No, no, we actually we really believe tailgating is part of the lifestyle.
Yes.
Such a very strong overlap between team sports and especially football and Traeger. And so I think like anything, it's figuring out all of your systems and routines.
Hmm.
It's not just the grill, it's how you transport the grill, how you transport your pellets, your food systems, all of those things, so that once you get there, it's like it's down to a science. The
Yeah.
first time you do it, it's a pain. The grill, whether you're tailgating on, if you're on a Ranger or the tailgater, which of course one of the grills, they're both fine. They do a great job. We think we can make them more portable. We think they can make them just easier to move around, but
Hmm.
it's a starting point, and we do it all the time.
All right. Watch this space, and I will definitely be watching this
Love
space.
it.
We're going to let you go, but I always end every podcast. We had out of the graciousness of your heart, you've come on here, and I always say, tell us about some of the foundations you're working with, charities, anything you want to really talk about and promote right now. I know you guys are heavily involved.
Yeah, we are, and this has been awesome for Traeger, and it's been awesome for my family. My wife Kristen really leads the charge in the work that we do in our community, and so there are a number of things that we're involved in, but something that our family's been involved in for many years that we've brought Traeger into as well. It's a high school not far from here. It's called Roots. Roots is I'll call it a last chance high school. It's
Hmm.
it's it's youth who couldn't make it anywhere else. And the principal, Tyler, he's this unbelievable human being. It's he brings these students in, and he loves them, and he understands them, and he helps them find purpose in life.
Hmm.
And so we're close to this school. Literally this week, we're creating food bags that they can take home for the holidays when they're not at school. They don't eat because
Hmm.
that's kind of the lives that
Yeah.
it's the homes that they live in. We've had them to Traeger to talk about careers, and like it's interesting to sit around and see someone's eyes light up.
Hmm.
We've taught them to barbecue. We have grills over there, and actually, what I didn't mention that's important is Roots. It's got a farm. It,
Oh,
it's
nice.
it's raising animals for food purposes. It's raising crops, and so this is part of the program of having these people find a hobby, a passion, think about life differently. And so it's been a really nice partnership. We love them, and honestly, I just think this is always the case when you look to do good for other people, when you look to serve. we're the beneficiaries.
Oh,
They
yeah.
appreciate it. We're the ones who gain from this, and it's been an awesome
Oh,
experience.
yeah. You think you're doing something for them, but they're doing for you. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Jeremy, man, can't thank you enough, and appreciate you joining us here. And let me know on that tailgater that you're working on there. That's Jeremy Andrus.
Good to see you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You too. That's Jeremy Andrus. Coming up next is the Smoking Hot Tip of the Week, brought to you every week by Texas Star Grill Shop.